Okay, great. Thank you, Dana.
No problem.
Amy, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sure we'd like to hear your you talk a little bit about your midterm. Since so many classes don't have them, which class is it that has a midterm?
This one is the History of Books and Libraries with Dr. Main. And it's a wonderful class, but she's giving us an hour and a half to do the midterm. The first part of it, we only get 15 minutes, and you can't go backwards. And then the second half is 60 minutes. So I can't wait.
Wow, I haven't had a midterm yet, an official one, knock on wood.
I took that class last spring, and I agree, it was a great class, but I had to type really fast, and I already typed fast, but I had to type really fast to fit in what I wanted to say in the time allotted. And I was nervous, so I actually went to the library because I figured their internet would be more reliable than mine. So that was sort of my insurance.
I don't want to know what kinds of questions, but what's the format of each part? Can you tell me that?
I don't really remember. I probably blocked it out. I sort of remember like short answer. I mean, like nothing. I don't think anything more than like a paragraph at most. And some of them I think were just a few sentences.
Okay, that's kind of what I was figuring. I'm condensing my notes that I've taken all semester, and I'm focusing on incunabula and illustrated manuscripts because she's broken it into 3 sections and you choose one of them.
Right. I didn't do that one, but I don't remember which one I did. You'll be fine. I'm sure you're over-prepared and will do great.
Thank you, Kate.
Congratulations, Kate, on the travel award.
Thank you. It's pretty exciting. I'm sorry, Yael, that we couldn't just share it. It seems better.
Congratulations, Kate. I guess I should share too. I got the travel stipend for the SLA conference from Southern California. So thank you for everybody who passed that along, and Basha.
Yay!
Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm very excited.
And now we can meet in person.
I was going to say you guys can see each other there.
And Mary said she's going to be there too. So
oh, great.
We're talking about maybe getting an SLA group together for drinks or lunch or something at some point.
Yeah, I know last year that the iSchool hosted like a little happy hour night, and we all got together there, all of us who were together, and you know they had snacks and drinks and things like that. So keep your ears open for that in case they host it again.
Well, yeah, and that means they're buying, so that's even better.
Absolutely.
Our tuition dollars at work.
That's right. It was good snacks too. Rhonda did. I mean, she got some amazing snacks.
Dana, I saw on Twitter today that, I think it was today, that you were doing like a Wikipedia something or other-a-thon at the library?
Oh yeah, I was helping at the King Library. They were doing it was an art and feminism Wikipedia-thon. It's something, I guess it's going on all month at multiple libraries and museums across, you know, the whole world. But it looks like, and from what I was doing when I was doing the prep work, is that women artists are horribly underrepresented in Wikipedia. And so what we did was we went through a variety of books Black female artists, Latino female artists, California female artists, and identified the ones that were not in Wikipedia, which was really most of them, and then brought together some folks and people started to make entries on them. And so it was really cool because what I guess I didn't really realize about Wikipedia is really a huge amount of the people who edit it are male. And so it's, of course, naturally skewed to the male perspective and entries relating to that. So it was good to educate people about the need to have females participating in the process, and also to include more female artists or whatever in Wikipedia. So it's really cool.
That sounds awesome.
How is the overall internship going at the library?
Oh, I love it. I really enjoy it. I'm doing a lot of really neat things, especially with online information literacy learning, creating a lot of online content, which I love. And I'm really enjoying working at the reference desk too. So that's fun and I learn a lot there. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it and learning tons, as I figured I probably would.
Anybody else doing any internships or any out-of-school interesting stuff?
I was going to let everybody know later. I was going to be sending out an email, but I was contacted today by the president of SLA Southern California chapter, and there is going to be an internship opportunity coming up this summer at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory for NASA in Pasadena. So I'm going to be applying for that, but I was also going to send it out to the rest of the group for anybody in Southern California that might be interested.
That sounds so cool. Let us know if we can help you at all with your application or whatever.
Yeah, we have some good editors in this group and people who can do letters of recommendation and all kinds of good stuff.
Andrea, were you just looking kind of generally, or did you use the iSchools database? Where were you looking?
What's the name of the guest speaker that Michael Stevens usually has who talks about UX? Aaron, there we go, Aaron Schmidt. I was wondering if he would have any knowledge of internships in user experience. Yeah, I love his talk. His was one of my favorites. I know he writes a blog for the ALA about user experience.
So I was thinking maybe we'll do some real quick introductions and also give one thing that we learned this semester from one of our classes, something unusual or interesting to share to kind of let everybody know the cool things that are going on in our different classes. And I guess I could start. So I'm Mary and I'm the programming director. And one of the cool things I learned this semester was that there is no research on the non-user in the library. So that's one of the things I figured out in Info 285. So Jonathan, you want to go next?
Sure. One of the things that's been interesting for me that I just recently worked on this past week was in regards to the difference between research-based and community-based sources, which I kind of already knew the differences for them, but coming from a background in history, I never really put much emphasis on community-based research. Obviously, community-based sources. Research-based sources are much more important to a historian. However, I'm now doing a project on the information communities of fandoms. And for fandoms, research-based sources don't really help at all, and they primarily rely on community-based sources that may not be accurate, but they provide for the information needs of the group. So that I thought was interesting.
Can we just go down the list here? Maybe Amy, you want to go next?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, I am taking the history of books and libraries this semester, and just last week I turned in a printed book analysis that I found a book in our local library that was actually printed in 1574, and I was able to handle it with kit gloves, take lots and lots of photos of it, and it was all in Latin. It was Julius Caesar's commentaries on the Gallic Wars, so it was quite exciting because they didn't even remember that they had it in their card catalog. I mean, it was listed in their catalog, and they had to go and find it in the rare books collection. It turned out it was donated in 1971 by one of the patrons, and it's been sitting there ever since. So yeah, I mean, it had vellum binding. The paper had a special printer's mark on the title page that was from a printer back in the 1500s, and a well-known printer in those days. So, I mean, how exciting is that? Mary, my library is it's Sonoma County Library System, and I think we have 14 libraries. Anyway, if you happen to be up here, I can lead you to where the catalog is, and you can come see it. My other class is online searching, and that's the trickiest one for me, learning about all the different kinds of databases that you can search. And I learned about patent databases the other day, so that's kind of exciting too.
Andrea, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm actually in my last semester, and the only class I'm taking right now is my portfolio class. And then I have a 1-credit class that I don't remember the topic of, but it's at the end of the semester. So I guess mostly what I'm learning right now is that I'm really glad that I used OneNote to organize everything from the start. So OneNote's really great because it has, you can do these folders, and then within the folders, so my main folder is notebook is my SLS degree, and then I have my tabs. So with each course I have a tab, and within those tabs I have a folder for each week. So I went through every week, put down, I started with the syllabus, and then I put down every assignment and the information about it as I went along. And then I tried to drag my homework onto the page so that I would have that later. But I'm really organized person, which I think a lot of you also would identify with. But it really helps as I'm going back to be able to search this notebook, the notebook, and find like, okay, this is what I have for, working with a group, or this is what I have for searching a database. So I definitely recommend it if you do not have something to organize yourself so far.
Hi, this is Basha, and I'm not really a student anymore. I graduated in May 2016, but I continue to learn on the job, and I am taking continuing education classes about systematic reviews and also about TalksLine, which is kind of an amazing resource from the National Institutes of Health and National Library of Medicine. So I highly recommend it. And I'm going to second Andrea here and say that definitely if you have any kind of organizational tools, for me it was Evernote, but use them. And most importantly, please make sure that you back up all of your work that you are going to be using in your ePortfolio. I saved everything on my computer as well as in the Dropbox to make sure that you don't lose any of the stuff. This is really, it's safety first when it comes to doing work like that.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Elliott. Basha's pretty modest also. She was the president of this group for a year and a half, 2 years. I preceded her as president in 2013, 2014. It's all a blur now. But I'm working in a medical library currently and looking to get a job in data asset management. That's what I like the geeky part of library science, so that's where I'm headed. Medical librarianship is great. My organization is just not looking for anybody new right now, so still learning, still checking out databases. Bosch and I both participated in the Data Rescue PDX 2 weekends ago. It was really wonderful. If you get a chance to participate, definitely go for it because they need librarians. You guys know metadata and can talk about aboutness and why it's so important to the scientists who really appreciated having us there. So that was really fun to get the library geek on. And that's me.
Hi, this is Joyce Ping. So this is my first semester at the iSchool, but I'm taking Info 202 right now, and it's really interesting just about everything in that class because it kind of opened my eyes to what goes behind an information retrieval system and search catalogs and everything. And I think the most interesting thing I learned so far was the folksonomies and tagging and everything. And I think that's really important to study, especially nowadays, since everything is these users are tagging everything. So yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things I learned so far. So yeah, that's me.
I've learned a couple of things interesting this semester. One is I just started doing my taxes, and the library that I work for didn't withhold any, so that's going to be interesting. And more related, I sort of for an out-of-class project, I'm doing a research survey, and so that has been really educational. Turns out writing a survey is hard. And so we really had to think about, each question and the format of each question and the order of each question on the survey, because, one answer can influence the other, and whether we made one question a check all that apply or a multiple choice. So it's been really interesting. We're thankfully done with the actual writing, and we're collecting responses right now, which is mildly addicting to just sort of watch the spreadsheet as they come in. But anyway, that's what I learned.
Kate, who are you? You didn't introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, I'm Kate.
And Kate's our communications director.
Yes, also that.
Hi, I'm Laura, and I'm the membership director. I'm actually taking some pretty heavy metadata courses this term, so I am learning about all sorts of different metadata schemes. And I learned RDA, and we went through the toolkit so thoroughly that I feel I actually know the RDA toolkit, which is actually quite an accomplishment. The biggest exciting thing that happened to me is I applied for a summer course through UWM, and it is a course where they travel to Montreal and to Ottawa, and they go to visit a whole bunch of different archives, and I actually got in, so I'm super excited about that. And that's me.
Thanks, Laura. At first I thought you said meditative. It's like, wow, she's taking meditative classes.
Are you taking metadata with Mary Boland?
Yes, I am. So I took her cataloging last term, and now I'm taking the metadata, yes. But the RDA and subject analysis courses are with Dr. Hall Ellis.
Laura, is the cataloging a good one to take? I've been debating back and forth on that one.
Yes, the cataloging with Dr. Bowen is really worthwhile to take. These two with Dr. Hall Ellis, I think they've probably jammed them in too short a time frame, because the RDA course was only a month, and now the subject analysis is only a month, and it's a huge amount of material to cover in that short time.
Okay, thanks.
Susan, are you with us? Sorry, Susan, we were just asking to share one thing you learned this semester in one of your classes. Susan, does that mean you no longer want to be an indexer? Dana?
Hi, my name's Dana, and I am the current president of the SLA student chapter. Right now I'm taking an internship, and I'm helping Debbie Fairs with web conferencing special projects, and I'm also taking metadata with Professor DiLorenzo. And probably one of the most interesting things I've learned so far is that the information that I learned in instructional design really does apply to instructional design. Everything I've learned about learning styles and learning theory, and then how to apply that theory into targeting what it is you want and hope learners will learn, really does make a difference when it comes to drafting quizzes when it comes to drafting online instructional content, and even designing the look of it. So it's really nice to know that what I've learned in the classroom is transferring over in a practical sense.
Jen, do you want to talk about something you learned? I know you're not in class, but maybe you're teaching a class.
So I learned that okay, I'm going to try again. Yeah, not in class anymore. I'm getting ready to prep for my summer class. But what I've learned is that everything you do in your life, whether it's library, whether it's classes, whether it's other work-related experience, you'll draw upon those lessons throughout your career. I'm in a new position. I was promoted about a month ago to be the head of the adult department. So everything that you learn, even if it's from a bad example, you take with you and apply that in your current situations. So nothing is ever wasted.
And with that, I think I will turn things over to Dana, the president, to get us started with the official part of our presentation. So Dana, it's now yours.
Thanks, Mary. Hey everybody, and welcome to our presentation tonight. We're so happy to have Jennifer Jumba here to give our presentation. Professor Jumba received her Master's in Library and Information Science at University of Pittsburgh in 2013. She's working as Head of Adult Services, as she said, at the local branch of, I'm going to say this wrong, Cuyahoga County Public Library. Prior to receiving her MLIS, she spent nearly 20 years in sales and marketing, and those skills also translated well into her career as a public librarian. In addition to teaching Info 246, which is Web 2.0 and social media, she also co-taught the SJSU iSchool's massive open online courses, the MOOCs, The Emerging Future with Dr. Sue Alman, in the fall of 2014. So welcome, Jennifer Jumba. We're so glad you're here, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Wow, thank you very much. Greetings from snowy Cleveland. It is a whopping 20 degrees here, and we are supposed to get a foot of snow in the next 36 hours. So I'm envious of all of you that are on the West Coast right now. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. When you teach, you always hope that you have an impact on your students. They might not realize it at the time, but was really fortunate that Yael was in my class and was so excited and contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in talking to you all. So super excited for the opportunity. I thought I'd start by the definition of social. It comes from Middle English, and if you look at the word, it means ally or associate. And if you think about the business that libraries are in, whether they're special libraries or public libraries or academic, that's kind of the business we're in, is to build allies and advocates. We're building connections between resources, between services, between the community. And if you do things correctly, you're going to build allies in the process. And social media is just an extension of that. So just to give you some perspective, if you look at how connected, and some might argue we're hyper-connected, but in 2011, roughly a third of the U.S. population had a smartphone. And if you look at 2016, it's astronomically scary how many people are connected, 77%. I'm almost afraid to think that we might tip 90% this year. So when you think about the number of people that have smartphones, and you think about the ubiquitous nature of technology, I think it's important that we look to develop allies and we reach people where they currently are. So social media is a great way to do that because everybody has a smartphone. This is some research from the Pew Research Center. When you look at the number of people that are using social media today and at least use one site, 69% of people do. And this is data taken just from January, beginning of this year. So when you look like 10 years ago, how few people were using it and how quickly it's climbed,
there has to be something there for people to get engaged with something that quickly and stick with it, even if it's only one social media application. So if we look at some of the things that are the most popular, obviously Facebook, 68%. About a quarter of the people use Pinterest. Almost a third use Instagram. A quarter of the percent use LinkedIn. Twitter, I'm surprised it's as low as it is. It's 21%. And then if you look at the U.S. population and you look at the young adults, messaging apps are what is most popular with them. So if you're looking to reach younger, think messaging apps, think things that disappear quickly. So I don't know if we can do a quick show of hands, but how many of you use these tools? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Yeah, awesome. So you have familiarity with the tool, which I think is really, really important. We want to look at not only how many people use social media, but how often people are checking. You look at the percentage of people who are using and checking, daily, weekly versus less often. There's now a term called nomophobia, which is like the fear of being without your phone or without technology. I swear I hear my phone ding and it hasn't. I think we all have been in situations like that, but people feel a need to be connected on a daily basis and more than often throughout the course of the day, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. So when you're looking to roll out social media, it makes sense that you reach people where they are in a platform in which they're currently engaged with on a daily basis, and then something that's available mobile, since we know how many people have smartphones and smart technology. So one of the things that we look at is what are the benefits to using social media, and it speaks to reaching people where they're comfortable. If you want to build relationships with people, reach them where they currently are. If you know they're checking social media, that's a great way to start. Also, these platforms are interactive. They allow the opportunity to share with each other. And then you have reach and frequency. Now, my background is sales and marketing, but what I didn't say is the 7 years before I became a librarian, I spent in radio advertising. Radio advertising, television advertising is all about reach and frequency. And so social media allows you to inexpensively reach a wide number of people pretty often. And typically it's at a low cost. I would argue it's a low cost, not necessarily in terms of money, or in terms of money, but not necessarily in terms of time. And that's kind of what the crux of this presentation is. So one of the things is there was a study done, ironically, by a library in Nigeria that looked at how can you be effective with social media. Those of you, I think Andrea was in my class, and same with Yael, know this study. But one of the things that they looked at for people to be successful with social media is it needs to be participatory. Unfortunately, right now I'm not in front of you, so it's hard to, thank you, to see you and to interact with you. But if we are emailing back and forth, or we're texting back and forth, or we're twitting, nice, good job. It's 10 o'clock my time, so it's been a long day. At any rate, you want something that's participatory, that allows people to interact. You also want something where you're teaching somebody something. You also have the opportunity to be collaborative because you're building on what other people are doing. Things that are fascinating are things that generate attention, and then you want to be flexible, that if you realize your tool's being used in a way that's not quite what you intended, but that's what the majority of the people who are following do, get on board with that and start looking at that and thinking that that might be the direction you want to take. Now, I thought I would take an opportunity just to give a couple quick examples of what I mean with those characteristics demonstrated. So everybody probably follows the New York Public Library, and quite frankly, what don't they do well? But their Instagram feed is using something that you all have seen, Bookface. And so what happens is people are participating. People are taking snapshots of their dog, of themselves, along with the book, and they're participating, and they're being very collaborative at this point. If you look at the Library of Congress, it's educating. You're looking and you're teaching somebody something. Not everybody's going to have the opportunity to go to the Library of Congress and see some amazing pieces of history. So what's the next best thing is you showcase it on a Pinterest board and you allow people to curate stories and reactions to the things that they might not physically see. So from the palm of your hand. Now I'll teach you one small thing. If you think about the smartphone and it fits in the palm of your hand, that has 10 times more technology than any one of the Apollo missions. So it's amazing what fits in the palm of our hand and how we can connect from a seemingly small object, but the big impact that it has. And then finally, I will finish with the California State Library. This California State Librarian was in my class last summer, and he's done a really great job with their Twitter feed, making sure that it's flexible, it's hitting a current topic, and it allows people to get involved. So this is an opportunity during the presentation to have a think. Think about an organization that you follow faithfully. And it doesn't matter if it's Instagram or it's on Pinterest or if it's on Twitter or Facebook. Now take an opportunity to think about an organization that you skim over or have at some point just unfollowed. And then think about the type of organization that you have tweeted or you have messaged. Now, what's your reaction when that organization responds to you? Because what I want you to do at this point is think about how you think and try to replicate that experience for your users or your customers or your patrons or your students. So the crux of this presentation is W to the 8th power H, and it's about 8 W's that you need to think about and 1 H, because I know that you were all very bright. I was blown away listening to the lessons that you've learned, the awards that you're getting, the stipends that you're getting to attend conferences, the internships, and I applaud that. Knowing how bright and creative you are, this is the opportunity when you're thinking about what social media tool or application that you're going to use, is to take the time to think and to plan. And these are the 9 steps that I would recommend that you go through in order to make sure that you're successful, not only in terms of uptake, but more importantly in terms of sustainability. And if you think about the beginning in terms of building allies, because when you build allies within your community, you're also building advocates. And we all know how close the relationship is between advocates and funding and the ability to showcase the great things that we have in our collections. So, quick overview. The 8 W's are what, who, when, where, what again, why, way, wow, and how. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time just kind of elaborating on what these mean and how to approach it and move forward. So very first step in the process of what is what social media tool or application are you looking to use? And then I really want you to think about it. What does it do? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What do you wish it could do? And then what role does it play in your library or organization? So if you think about taking things for a test drive first, the worst thing to do is to get on board and get so excited and start it and then realize, oh, this doesn't work the way I want it to. Or, oh my gosh, I wish it could do this, and it doesn't do that. Take it for a test drive first. You know, make up a mock account and kind of play with it and get comfortable with it before you go ahead and make a decision on it, so that you realize the great things that it does as well as the things that are possibly limiting. Who? Now, this is the important thing, is you have to think about who you're targeting with social media and look at a specific group of users. You know, there are some things like Facebook that appeals to pretty much everybody, but there are other tools, and as you break down the demographics that tend to use those tools, make sure that you're using those with those intended users and audiences, because you want to be as focused as you possibly can. There is not a one-size-fits-all social media tool. And then the other part of who is who on your team will be responsible for training and maintaining. And unless you're really lucky and work for an organization that has a social media team or a marketing team that works 24/7 across multiple platforms, it's really important that you train people on how to use it, not just the posting of the content, but how to respond to people who participate back. I think that's a really important thing, because If you think about the times that you've taken an opportunity to message an organization or an author or a museum and they respond back to you, how cool is that? How excited are you about that? So you want to be able to do the same thing and build response and then start to share their audiences. If you think about it like a Venn diagram, there's your special library and then there's an outside organization. And when you start to cross-promote and share users, really great things happen. Because the future of libraries depends not just on us being silos, but us being collaborative with other organizations in the community. You also want to think about when you're planning to launch, and really important that you take a step back, take the time to plan, take the time to implement, and then the biggest thing is taking the time to keep things fresh and relevant. When you look back at those questions that I asked towards the beginning about things that you've kind of unfollowed or you just kind of breeze right past within your messaging, there's a reason why. Either they post too much, they don't post enough. So if you don't take the time to plan and you don't have a plan in terms of what you're going to promote when to keep things fresh and to keep things exciting, then it's going to be really hard to sustain, and your users who followed you quickly will move on to something else as it comes along. So the next thing is where, and think about where you're going to market this social media tool or application, because if you want people to interact with you, you need to let them know that it's available and encourage them to participate. So make sure that it's something that's easy to find. If you're going to put it on the front page of your website, which is a great idea, make sure somebody doesn't have to scroll all the way down to find it. One of the things that I'm a big proponent of is if you want people to interact with you, do not create an artificial barrier. Don't make it so hard for them to find where they could, post their book face on Instagram, or make it really hard for them to share a message with you. Do not create that artificial barrier. It's really important to make things easy when you're asking somebody to do something, which is to get involved and to participate and build this really great dynamic. Think about why. Why are you choosing to use this tool? Is it just because you're a fan of it? Is it because it reflects your organization? I work for the Cuyahoga County Public Library. We're a pretty big organization. There's 28 branches. We have a marketing department that does our social media. Sometimes I wish they would take my class. But you want to make sure that whatever it is you're choosing and whatever content it is that you're posting aligns with the mission, vision, and values of your organization. For all intents and purposes, you're the face of the organization on Instagram. So you need to make sure that it's pretty much in tandem with the overall mission. And then when you're looking at why you're going to use a social media tool, define your objective. Be very clear and specific. So one of the things that I enjoy doing is reader's advisory. And I'll give you a good example, which is an objective that says, I want to use Facebook to recommend books. A better example is I'm going to use Facebook to recommend books to adult readers. The best and most specific example is each week I'll recommend 3 books to adult customers. Big difference. The more concrete you are, the more specific the example, the easier it is to guide the implementation, the easier it is for you to understand, is this working, is this not working, do I need to make adjustments? And then you're able to measure your success. And one of the things I'll tell you is if any of you are pitching a particular social media tool or application to a board of directors, to a management team, being able to clearly define an objective is going to help you in the long run. Because when you turn around and say, yeah, I said I was going to recommend 3 books, and look, 5 people asked for recommendations this week, and then it grew to 10, and then it went back down to 8, but we're still above 3. When you have a clear benchmark, you can turn around and say, yes, we were successful with this. Really, really important. And yes, Brian, you're right, it keeps the communication really focused so that anybody on your team that you're training or maintaining is able to implement. Because we could post 24 hours a day, 7 days a week and monitor things, but when you split it up amongst a group of teammates, it makes it a whole lot easier. The second appearance of what is the content. So I told you before that I was in radio sales, in advertising, and I worked with clients to develop advertising campaigns that were successful. And those that were successful knew three things. The first one is they knew the right audience. So think of that specific user. The second is the right frequency, that they're on the radio station often enough to be top of mind. And then three, when they had people's attention and they were on, what was their message? And when you are combining those three things, think of like a three-legged stool, then you're going to be successful. So you have their attention. What you say when you have their attention matters, because if we think about the number of messages that assault us each and every day, really easy to look past the things that don't, grab our attention. So it also, when you have content, it gives people confidence who aren't comfortable with it. One of the great things about working in libraries is that it is a multi-generational work environment, that you're working with people who have been in libraries for a very long period of time. You're working with people who have, people like me who have switched careers. And you're working with people who are young, right out of library school, right out of undergrad, and are excited and have all these new things that they want to accomplish. So when you're able to make people comfortable because you've really harnessed what that content should look like, you give them great confidence to go ahead and replicate what you need to get done. And it helps with consistency, it helps with branding. So the other thing I will say is, while we're on the topic of content, is you're the face of that organization. So there are plenty of things in this world to talk about and to get people excited about that is not necessarily controversial. So keep that in mind too. I'm not saying that you can't have opinions or views, but just be very careful that you look to build allies and not to alienate people. Wow is the last W. It refers to content and it refers to frequency. So one of my, I'm a big fan of Seth Godin. He is a business guru. He's written many books. In particular, he's written a book called The Purple Cow. And he and his family were in France. They were driving through the countryside, and they looked out their window and they saw a bunch of pastures with cows, and they were kind of like mesmerized and thought, oh wow, that's so nice, because they're from the big city and they don't see that. And then after about 10 miles, they were kind of bored with seeing cows alongside in the pasture. So he says, well, what if you were driving along and you saw a purple cow? So you want to do something that's going to make you stand out, that's going to get attention, that's kind of that wow factor, that unexpected, didn't expect to see that there. And good messaging and good social media does just that. It generates excitement and it generates engagement. Way. Those of you who took my class can chime in here. I believe that social media is a two-way communication tool. We emphasize the part of social media, not one way. It is not strictly a marketing tool to talk about the next great event. I think those things are fine. But people, in today's day and age, people have a smartphone, people check in with social media, they want to feel connected, they want to be part of something, they want to contribute to something. So I think it's really important that you develop messaging and content that encourages that. So many people want to share whatever their love of whatever it is you're talking about. Give them an opportunity to do so. An example is, in particular, Greg Iles, who wrote Natchez Burning, is coming to our library. You can ask what was the favorite part of the trilogy when you read it. So there's a way to, in a two-way communication, I beat my poor students over the head with that this summer. But it's such an important thing. If you think about even this lecture, for example, that I can't hear you, and I'm kind of throwing a ton of stuff at you, and I'm trying to take in your comments in the bottom corner, and develop a rapport and a relationship. But social media does the same thing, and I think all too often people use it as, well, gosh, I don't have to pay for flyers, I don't have to pay for billboards, I don't have to pay for signs on the bus. I think it's really important to find a way to be participatory, to teach somebody something, to allow people to become involved. I think that's one of the greatest things about this tool when it's done, and when it's done well. And then the final is how. How will you ensure that your use is unique? And then how are you going to measure success or failure? And one of the things that's really important to do, those of you who are talking about gathering data and surveys, is you want to make sure you have a good frame of data, that you don't want to respond after one day. You don't want to respond after 1 week. You don't want to wait a year from now and go, well, gee, how did we do? How many people are following us? How many people retweeted us? How many people used a particular hashtag that we curated? So find a way, a middle ground, to look at data in small sets and then see if you can measure any type of trends. Really important to find a balance. And I mentioned it a little bit before, but if you're using a particular tool and people are using it in a way that you hadn't thought of and that seems to be catching on, nurture that and encourage that. And listen to how people are using it. If you're truly doing it as a two-way communication tool, people will let you know, and follow that and listen to that and respond to that. A few tips and tricks. These kind of go without saying. Best practices, be real. Humanize your posts. 82% of people trust them when you're real and you humanize them. And one of the great things that social media is able to do is it gives you a glimpse kind of behind the scenes. The other thing is, if you're going to use a URL shortener, please customize it. Nobody wants to remember, you know, bit.ly.this with a string of numbers, but if you say, you know, bit.ly.sjsusla, you know, people are going to remember that. Images have an impact, but keep it simple. Make sure that you're accommodating mobile devices. That kind of goes without saying. There's something that's referred to as a curiosity gap, that you want to make sure that you're not so vague when you're generating content, but at the same time you're specific. I mean, you don't really want to be a tease, but you don't want to give it all away either. If you're using sound bites, whether you're quoting something or you're using only 140 characters, try to be succinct, but also try to be memorable. Now, this doesn't go for every single post, but a majority of your posts should curate in these types of practices. Be amazing, be transparent, and be honest. A lot of times people like to see a glimpse behind the scenes. They're more concerned with an experience. Anybody can visit a website and see what your library is about or what your collection's about. But if you're posting, you know, Facebook Live of a new piece that just came in and how you're using the kid gloves to look at it and show where that printer was typed on that top of that page from back in the 1500s, that's pretty amazing stuff. So be amazing with it. Give people a chance to see things that they might not see just on your website alone. What not to do? Don't fall into the trap of like baiting. It does nothing to build relationships. I mean, everybody can run around and talk about how many friends they have on Facebook, but how many are those people that you're going to call at like 3 in the morning because your car broke down? So make sure that you don't fall into that. People seem to suss out disingenuous things right away. Find that right balance between posting too much and posting too little. I can think of organizations that I follow on Twitter, and they post incessantly, and it just annoys me. Or they don't post enough, and I've kind of forgot that I was even following them in the first place. Again, using only social media to advertise. Only using Facebook. While I did make a case earlier on saying that Facebook is probably one of the most popular tools, it's not the only tool that's out there. So when you go back to who that specific user is, take a look and see what demographics a majority of the application reaches and choose that. Please do not post in a hurry. Do not make spelling errors. People just don't like that, and it kind of affects your credibility as well. And sometimes you can post something too quick because you're responding emotionally. Make sure you take a deep breath, read it before you post it. Posting without images. So one of the things that's amazing is the brain is able to process an image 60,000 times faster than just text alone. So it makes a big difference. Not having a check and balance system, so get your team involved so that if you're thinking like, gosh, should I post this? Does this make sense? Run it past somebody else. It's okay to get a second opinion. That extra 10 minutes that you took is not going to alienate users by any means. Not having social media buttons that are easy to find. If you want people to get involved, and If you go to CuyahogaLibrary.org, you'll see ours are having to be found all the way at the bottom of the page if you scroll. Makes me crazy. Making it only about you or your company. One of the great things that the Yale Music Library does is they post things that are about music, not necessarily about them, or things that are going on in the community and looking to build community from a different perspective. And then, of course, my favorite is not having a social media strategy at all. Real quick, netiquette. You're associated not just with what you post, but what others post as well. So if somebody responds to you, address it. If they respond and it's not nice, make sure you address that it's not nice and give them an opportunity to contact you offline. People pay attention to how you handle things, that it might not have been me that was upset and posted something nasty, but I watch how that organization handled the other person who just did. Reread before you post. Realize no matter what, there's no takebacks on the internet. People screenshot things all the time and it lives in infamy. Treat this as if it were a face-to-face conversation. If you wouldn't say it to the person sitting across the table from you, you don't have to say it on social media. When you are doing this for your library or your organization, it is important to maintain professionalism at all times. Any of you who are interviewing for jobs, internships, other opportunities, the first thing that you do is when you're interested in something is you pop it into Google. And you want to make sure that, you know, you're professional and you're associated with professional things. Set goals for posts, and remember, nothing is private or temporary. I cannot stress that enough, and I probably don't need to go through all the examples that we've seen lately with people who post things that they think were private and they weren't. So just be smart. You all are very bright people, otherwise you wouldn't be in this program. So just remember to take a minute, breathe, and do it right. And then the final thought that I'm going to leave you with is coined by a librarian. Her name is Buffy Hamilton. She spent a small time up here in Cleveland. I believe she's now in the Atlanta area. But she talks about enchantment. And enchantment she defines as a process of delighting people with a product, service, and organization of an idea. And the three things that she believes make up this term of enchantment is number one, likability, number two, trustworthiness, and number three, a fantastic product or service. So think about that with what you'd like to accomplish using social media to reach your customers or your patrons or your students. Make sure it's relevant and meaningful. Yes, King Libraries is pretty great. But think about enchantment. You don't want to be just that cow in the pasture. You want to be that purple cow, that one that stands out, where people like you because you're genuine and you're honest and you're transparent. They can trust you, and then you have something really fabulous to share with them that they might not otherwise know. And I will pause at this point to see if you all have any questions. Yes.
In your research,
I'm trying to look for the hand. I heard the ping.
Oh, sorry, that was me.
Okay.
Sorry, it's Jonathan. In your research, have you found any differences with social media between written posts versus visual posts, such as pictures and videos? I was talking with someone recently about how few people in our generation and at this time like to actually read articles. They prefer to see the pictures or short videos. And I just didn't know if there was anything to show any type of trend in that direction.
I haven't come across or taken the time to spend a lot of time on that research. The fact that the human brain processes an image 60,000 times faster speaks to that point. If you think about it, you know, radio is truly a different medium because you're just speaking and you're creating your own pictures and using a different area of your brain. But if you think about combining more than one sense, visual and audio, pictures and text, recall tends to be better. And I think people just have shorter attention spans. I don't know if it's because of social media, or I don't know that they have shorter attention spans, or if their attention spans are shorter and we have developed social media tool to meet those short attention spans. I'm not sure. It's a great thing that I would be really curious to see more research on. Great question. Jen, this is Amy. I know talking about Jonathan's question, I know for me, I do better with reading than with spending time to look at videos. Sometimes they don't buffer correctly or there's other issues, and I can always get a reading from Facebook or from Twitter or whatever. So that's my personal choice, but I wonder how many people feel that way. You know, if you look at people in education, they talk about the different learning styles. Some people are visual, some people are audio, some people are kinesthetic, and then there's kind of a mix between the two. You know, I think some people, depending on what it is you're looking to learn, do better with a video. Some people do better with a book. I think it's each personal preference, and I realize now, embarrassingly, that this presentation had 0 images. So sorry. That I got promoted like a month ago, so things have been a little bit nutty. But yeah, so I gave your brains a break. They weren't processing 60,000 times faster during the course of this. So I'm forgiven. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I had a couple questions. I was wondering if you had any social media sites that you highly recommended for us to look at as kind of exemplars of what you're talking about. I know you mentioned the New York Public Library, but I just wondered if you had some other ones that would be related kind of to what we're doing, either university sites or groups like SLA sites.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to say. New York Public Library does everything pretty well. Part of it is they just have a ridiculous brand to begin with, but they've backed it up in each of their tools. State Library of California does a pretty good job too, offering behind the scenes, generating interest. I know they're kind of a hybrid of a library / museum / archive type thing. They've done a really good job of allowing you to see things that you wouldn't normally see. You know, some museums, I look here at the Cleveland Museum of Art, they do a pretty good job. I think there's a universal lesson, whether you're looking at public libraries, is look at the content and look to see if it in any way is looking to engage people. I think that should kind of be your litmus test. I know you all, some of you are in medical libraries, some of you are in different settings, but you should look to find a way to build those allies.
I have another question about follow-up with what you just said. So you said that we should look for ones that are looking to engage us, and I was just thinking about this collaborate session and how it's really hard to be engaged. It's very one way. I mean, we can reply and we can make comments, but I was wondering if you've seen any social media alternatives to this kind of presentation. Maybe that's isn't happening, but are people doing any kinds of interactions like we're doing here, but in the social media platform?
Some, I think that's the challenge, to do things in real time. At the library, I do Facebook Live. It's one Wednesday a month. There's 3 librarians that get together and talk books. It kind of rotates. It streams, live for a half an hour, and people can put comments in. We tried Periscope. To Brian's point, we tried Periscope. It was so clunky. It could only be viewed on mobile devices. So we decided to do Facebook Live because the marketing director was on maternity leave. So kind of sometimes you ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So that's what we've done, and we found that it helps to build an audience, and then people can go back to it because then we post it to YouTube. So people can go back and listen to the 30-minute talk, and still comment and still chime in. But it is really hard in today's day and age to do things in real time. And I don't know the best way, tools out there to do that. I mean, most of you are in the program at San Jose State because it's asynchronous and because it's online. It's a challenge. I don't know, maybe we all put our heads together here and coin it and take it to the mass market on how to communicate more effectively in real time. Ooh, archivist, ask an archivist. That's pretty cool. Yeah, people are coming up with new ways of doing things all the time. That's correct. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, remember back in the old days when we would just talk to people on a telephone in real time with a cord? Now we, do all kinds of other things. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll leave you all with, oops, wrong way. My email address. If you guys noodle on this afterwards and think of questions, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll get back to you. But I'm excited to see what you all are going to do and how great you're going to use social media to really build allies in your communities, because you all work for amazing organizations that have really great things to share and to highlight, and it's just a way of finding a way to communicate that with people and allow them to get involved. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Jen. That was great. We really enjoyed your presentation. Thanks so much for being here tonight.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, Mary, if there's anything else you need, please let me know. It's a lot of information, I know, to cram in a very short period of time.
Well, you covered a lot. You gave us so much to think about. I'm really excited about thinking about this not only for SLA, our SLA group, but I also teach online, and so I was trying to think, I bet there's ways that some of the social media could be incorporated into my teaching. So thanks very much.
Oh, no problem. Yael will probably tell you, but I used Pinterest in my class to each week when we had a topic. They were responsible for pinning to that particular board so they could see what other people are doing, and it's kind of this really cool collaborative collection of resources. I also used VoiceThread because I think that's one of the challenges in online education is people don't have the opportunity to chat. And they had 60 seconds to respond to a question and then comment on peers. And most people go, 60 seconds, that's not a lot of time. Most radio commercials are, 15, 30 seconds. So there's the lost art of writing short.
Wow, that sounds really cool. What was the name of the thing? Board short? What was it called? Sorry.
VoiceThread. VoiceThread, and so, yeah, VoiceThread.
Okay.
And it's a widget that you plug into your class, but it's really kind of neat because students can either use a webcam or just the voice recorder, and record a 60-second, and really try to encourage them not to read it, to gather your thoughts and not read something verbatim, and then comment on peers. And so they started to build this neat little community, because it's really hard when you're going it alone in an online degree to feel like you're part of something. And they started to build a bit of a community with each other, which was really kind of neat. And then practice that ability to speak, because unless you're going to be a librarian who doesn't talk and only responds by writing, you need to be able to speak. Yeah, Mary, you're welcome to contact me later and I can walk you through how to do it. But it's a really great tool. All right, you all have a great night. And don't tell the marketing director that I said it's hard to find stuff. Yeah, what happens? I love it. And if any of you are going to ALA this summer, let me know, because I will be there too.
That would be great to meet up with you. I think at the beginning several of us were talking about that we'll be there, so it would be great to meet up with you.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's Jonathan. That's SLA. She's going to ALA, which is American Libraries Association.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard that wrong.
I might have said it wrong.
So many conferences, so little time.
That's exactly right.
Jen, would you be willing to share your PowerPoint with us?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What's the best way to get that to you? You just use the slide deck that I shared with you?
Yeah, Mary and I have copies.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you mind if we posted it in ScholarWorks along your talk?
No, that's fine. Not a problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was selfish on my part, Jonathan, because I'm planning to go back to it and review some of the points.
Yeah, I am too. I've never really been a huge social media person. I've always been someone who views social media. I've always had a Twitter, I've had a Facebook, I've had all that stuff, but I very seldomly used most of them and usually just scrolled through Facebook, but I'm really bad about even just liking posts. I see things from friends and family that are like, oh, that's cool, but then I don't actually click the button to like it. So that's been one of my goals this year, is to be better about actually participating in it and then producing content myself. So this was an awesome presentation.
That's good. That makes me happy.
But Jen, just thanks so much for talking with us. We really appreciated it. And I'm sure all of us are going to have a lot to think about, and we appreciate your email in case we want to follow up.
Absolutely. I know it's a lot to noodle on. There's a lot of information there, and after you think about it for a few days, I mean, obviously happy to answer any questions I can. And thank you again for the opportunity. Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, we'll let you go. I know it's late on your side of the country, so have a good night.
It is. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go.
No.
Shovel. Well, yeah, if you shovel a little bit now, stay ahead of it. Working so high.
I live in Alaska, so yeah, you kind of have to get out there, shovel a little, come back, shovel a little more.
Yes. Hot chocolate in between. Yep.
Yep.
I'm hoping for a snow day for the library tomorrow, but that never happens because we provide a service to people, so it does not close. So, thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mary. I think that went really well.
Yeah. But gosh, it was a lot of information. She covered a lot of territory. Wow.
It was. So I'm glad we have the slides and all those things, because I am definitely going to go back over it.
Yeah, she left a lot of material for us to look at. That's great.
Yep,
okay,
absolutely.
Thank you, Dana.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye.